Car chases are dangerous and unpredictable. Viewer discretion advised.
Breaking news right now, a police pursuit involving a tow truck. This is in Sherman Oaks.
Stu Mandel is live above it all as we approach the busy rush hour right now. Stu?
Well, that's right. It's never a good time for a pursuit, but right now we actually have rush hour. We're on Ventura Boulevard. I believe we're just crossing, we started on Ventura and Hazeltine, and now we're headed eastbound here, but we're still eastbound on Ventura Boulevard. This started in the Van Nuys area. Very unusual circumstances starting this. Officers apparently were watching this tow truck. He was calling for a backup and an air unit. Even before the pursuit started, there was something that caught an officer's eye about this truck, so that they were watching this vehicle, and then obviously when the backup arrived, this vehicle fled. Now, just moments ago during the break, we saw this truck stopped. Actually, the vehicle, the tow truck is actually the vehicle they're chasing. We saw that stopped at Hazeltine and Ventura. Officers had their guns out. It looked like it was going to be coming to an end, and then for no reason at all, the guy never got out of the vehicle, but then he just decided to keep on driving. This is very slow speeds here. You can see it. We're moving again westbound down Ventura Boulevard. We're coming up on Coldwater Canyon now, and officers are they have 3 units in the pursuit right now, and they are staying their ground. They're kind of keeping their distance because of the traffic and the times, and also this is a very large truck. This is a tow truck, so it has some weight to it. Now, again, we're not clear what the want is for this vehicle. We do know at one point, possibly, again, very preliminary, that there might have been some sort of altercation with an officer and that vehicle. So that is part of the reasons why the LAPD, even in these times at the rush hour right now, are keeping a close eye on this vehicle and choosing to pursue it. Now, again, the words pursuit at this time, we have to be careful with that. As you can see, the officers actually holding their distance, going very far back. They have a helicopter overhead. Now, that helicopter is in tracking mode, so they're not right up on them. They're not doing the code 3 lights and sirens. They're just kind of watching, kind of keeping an eye on it, trying to figure out where this guy goes. Hopefully, he will pull over someplace, and that's where they can take this guy into custody. Again, unclear why this pursuit originally was initiated. We do know that the tow truck driver actually had some kind of conflict or came into contact with an officer. That we did not see, but we did hear about that on the scanners. Again, the officers pulled up behind him. You can see it's traffic. A lot of traffic out here with a busy street. This is Ventura. I believe we're right at right near Coldwater Canyon.
It's at Whitsett right
now.
there.
We're making a left turn. Yeah, we're making our way. This is roughly the area where this all kind of started a little bit earlier. Again, this guy not making any kind of crazy moves. He's not driving extremely fast, but yet he's definitely not stopping. And you can see this is a uniformed tow truck driver. Now that we push in a little bit closer, we can actually see him in there. It looks as if though this is a uniformed tow truck driver. And again, unclear what brought this whole thing to a start. But something caught an officer's eye, and that's what started this pursuit.
All right, and it looks like he's headed down Whitsett Boulevard right now, north on Whitsett, in the direction of Van Nuys, but still in the Studio City area. Once again, officers really maintaining their distance, but this gets tricky there because Whitsett really narrows down. You see often that cars are parked along the side of the road there, and there's not a lot of room for cars to maneuver. And once again, there's a lot of traffic right now. Everyone's headed home, and you can see that he doesn't have a lot of room to maneuver, and he's going to be stopped there for quite some time if he continues on Whitsett.
Well, and actually, of the streets that he could have chosen, Whitsett is actually not as busy as the other ones that have gone down Coldwater or Laurel Canyon.
Yeah.
As we've been following this, we see that it is a uniformed tow truck driver, so it's the person we believe who should be driving the truck. No reports of that it's a stolen tow truck, and it's again started in the Van Nuys area. As we've been overhead, it looks like he's pretty much following traffic rules. He's been stopping at red lights and not driving too erratically, but then again, he's not pulling over for officers, and it looks like the officers are really keeping their distance at this point, right, Stu?
Oh yeah, definitely keeping their distance. I actually had their radios turned down. So, but again, I believe they're still in the tracking mode, and you are correct. Thank you for that. This is actually northbound Whitsett. We are still in the Studio City area, and again, that right there, that's the 101 freeway, just passing underneath it. And as you said earlier, it appears that the truck, probably not stolen, appears to be a uniform, the person that should be driving it. He has been obeying the traffic signals. At one point, we saw him pull up next to that black truck. I thought maybe perhaps he had rolled down his window or was trying to make some talk to that person, but I guess not. And again, officers keeping their distance, but definitely in the area, and they're not going to give this one up. Again, there was some sort of contact with an officer at the beginning of this entire pursuit. We're not sure. Again, originally they were calling for backup in an air unit long before the pickup truck, or the tow truck fled the scene. So he must have been doing something, possibly maybe he was engaging in some sort of illegal activity. Again, well, those are all just speculations, but officers saw this truck. One of the officers was actually asking for backup at one point or another, and even before the airship got here, this guy in this tow truck fled the scene. Now he's making a little bit more erratic moves. Nothing, too crazy, but still, the right thing for him to do would just be to pull over. I'll get you a street here in just a second. I think we're back on Ventura Boulevard, and
It looks like he might have turned southbound on Laurel Canyon there. And of course,
Laurel
with these,
Yes.
it is incredibly busy. And look how lucky he is that he's turning down Laurel Canyon and he's able to drive like that.
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting if he there it is.
There it goes.
Because you know that it really backs up around the freeway right there as you head back to Ventura Boulevard. He is right at the freeway there and Laurel Canyon in the Valley Village area. There's a lot of supermarkets. There's a lot of traffic as people are headed home, and the streets get very congested as he'll wind his way back up to the Studio City area, but sort of zigzagging through the Studio City area, headed back to Ventura Boulevard. And, we often talk about how these drivers head back to where the whole thing started or areas that they know well. We know that it began in the Van Nuys area, but we don't know where the driver's from. But he's sort of staying very close to the Studio City area right now in very heavy traffic there on Laurel.
Now, Stu, in the time that you've been overhead, have you seen license sirens, or does it seem like officers have been kind of in a tracking mode since you've been overhead?
Well, since we been following it, when we first arrived here on scene, yes, there were lights and sirens. They did pull him over. They had their guns out. There's this have a CHP unit now. Just I don't know if they're joining in or just keeping an eye on it, or just happen to be in the area. There was some of our live trucks right there as well. But yeah, at one point there were lights and sirens, and it seemed like it was going to come to an end. We were watching the officers. They had their guns out, the doors open, and it seemed like this was over. That was at Hazeltine and Ventura, and then right before the break, he just decided to start driving again. Again, they are still in pursuit. Technically, they are in pursuit. They're following him. Again, as I go a little bit wider, we see how far back these guys are. I can take the chance here. He's going pretty slow. That's the closest officers right there. You can see the helicopter overhead keeping a wide shot, and he's just driving along right there, actually keeping, like you said, freeway speeds. Possibly he's just biding his time. We've seen that many times in the past with people being pursued. They know they're going to go to jail, so this is their last hurrah. They're going to bide their time. They're going to drive around a little bit. He doesn't seem to be taking any drastic chances, but nevertheless, to stop this vehicle in this type of traffic at this time is going to be extremely difficult for the LAPD.
Breaking news, a pursuit is underway in the Valley right now.
That's right, apparently right out our back door. Sky 2 live over Studio City as authorities pursue a tow truck. CBS 2 Stu Mendel overhead from Sky 2. Stu?
Well, Pat, that's right. We just actually passed the CBS studios. We are still eastbound on Ventura Boulevard here, and you can see that tow truck still making his way. Officers in numbers behind him, though. At one point, they were you could really see the numbers of officers. I'm trying to go a little bit wider to show you. That's one of the first ones right there. But they've been following this guy now for quite some time. Apparently, he was the driver, excuse me, the driver of the vehicle is not supposed to be driving this vehicle. That's part of the clues that we've been coming up with. Officers from the LAPD apparently had some sort of incident with this guy. There was some sort of contact with the LAPD. So, and then this guy fled, and then that's been the pursuit ever since. We've been driving through very busy, very crowded streets here in the Valley area. Most of the time on Ventura Boulevard, and then through some smaller side streets, but basically in the Studio City, Sherman Oaks area. And again, we're just following along right now with the LAPD. At one point, the LAPD was actually asking us to help them get a name off the truck, possibly a phone number. We did that for them earlier on. And right now, the helicopter is in what's called a tracking mode. They are high above, making circles, keeping an eye on this guy, as are we and the media. And then again, the first of the officers are far behind. I can show you right here. We can keep an eye on the vehicle they're pursuing, but these are all the LAPD officers. That's all the Van Nuys officers and the Van Nuys division of LAPD, and they've been following this guy. They've been keeping a distance, like they said, and also they believe they know or have a name of this person that's driving this vehicle. So that might be another one of the reasons why they're not being so aggressive to try to stop this pursuit. They're just kind of following along, because if they have a name for this person, even when he stops and he gets out, if they don't catch him right at that moment, they can still find him later on. So that seems to be the norm right now for this pursuit that we've been watching. All of them a little bit different, very tactical. Officers always having to make decisions. Again, they've decided not to be aggressive with this guy, not to force him to a stop, because of all the vehicles that are around. As I go a little bit wider, you can see all the traffic. We're in Ventura. We're coming up in the Universal Studio area right now. Excuse me, Universal City area right now. And again, you can see all these vehicles out there. So to make a stop or to have some kind of confrontation with the LAPD, with all these civilians around, very dangerous. So right now, we're just waiting for a light, and the officers are in numbers behind. I can go a little bit wider and show it to you, but
Stu,
again, this pursuit's still going.
Hold on for a second here, Stu, because joining us on the phone right now, we have Lieutenant Andy Nyman of the LAPD. And Lieutenant, can you please tell us about what the strategy is right now with this tow truck?
Well, at this point, based on the information that we are developing on the incident, our officers and the supervisors that are monitoring this incident have elected to go into what we call tracking mode, which is where our air unit continues to track the vehicle while the officers continue to follow at a safe distance, as long as the person that we're following continues to drive in a safe manner, obey the laws, and we don't want to force anything at this point, because at this point we're able to control it from a distance. Now, our actions will be dictated based on what the suspect does, and so at this point, tracking mode seems to be working. Hopefully he'll pull over at some point, and then we will be able to resolve this incident.
Hi, Lieutenant. Can you tell us the nature of the incident that he had with police officers? We understand that there was some kind of disturbance, or he was questioned initially and then sped off.
Yeah, what we know at this point is that officers from Van Nuys were responding to a traffic collision in the area of Magnolia and Woodman, and the individual involved in this tow truck somehow was at that scene, not sure what his involvement was, and something transpired while the officers were there that prompted them to request a supervisor. And our initial indications are there was some type of altercation with this individual, at which point he jumped back in his truck and took off, and that's what prompted the officers to start following him.
So, Lieutenant Nyman, he did not steal this vehicle. He actually works for the tow company. Is that correct?
Well, we haven't determined that yet, but our initial indications are he's probably connected to that tow truck.
Well, Lieutenant, has there been any contact with this driver since he's been in the vehicle?
Not to my knowledge. The officers and the supervisors at Van Nuys Division are doing their best right now to make contact with him or the company to resolve this in a very quick and safe manner, and so we'll continue to do that.
Yeah, and have you, in fact, at this point, Lieutenant, been in contact with the tow truck company?
I don't know that. I've got people on the phone as we speak, and as you can imagine, everybody wants to know every detail about this, but it's just unfolding. So as we develop more, we'll be more happy to give you guys some more details.
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Well, Lieutenant, he's stopped in traffic now. It appears from what we've seen, well, he's at the Cahuenga Pass right now, and I guess he does has the option to, well, could have gotten on some freeways there, but it appears that the initial reason why he was being stopped in the first place or being followed was because of that altercation with an officer, because so far from what we've seen, he has obeyed traffic signals and hasn't been driving recklessly, at least.
That's correct, and we hope he continues to do so. Our hope actually is that he just pulls over to the side so we can resolve this and figure out exactly what's going on. But if he changes his posture and his behavior and driving pattern to become more aggressive, then we will look at some different options.
And if he does become more aggressive, Lieutenant, I assume then that's when you guys will get somehow right back on his tail. It certainly would seem to me it might be difficult to pit this particular vehicle given its size and weight.
Well, again, we'll have to evaluate that as if that time comes. And again, as we're observing this from all the different coverage that you guys are providing, at this point, it looks like he is driving in a fairly safe manner. We just hope that he pulls over.
All right, and Lieutenant, well, we have determined it is a he and not a female in this truck, and apparently he is by himself.
To my knowledge, the information I have is he is alone by himself.
All right. Lieutenant, we thank you for taking the time to be with us. We certainly appreciate it. Let's get back up to Stu Mundell right now and get a little better handle on exactly where we are at this point. Stu?
Paul, we're on Cahuenga. We just passed Mulholland. We're coming into the Hollywood area. We're trying to maneuver around a little bit to try to get a better shot inside that truck to see who is exactly driving it. These are the best shots we can get you right now through the front windshield. We can confirm that unless there's somebody hiding underneath or kneeling down, there's no obvious other person in that vehicle, just the driver of the truck. We also understand that the driver of the truck may be talking to the actual owner of the vehicle on a cell phone. Now, this is also unconfirmed, but we're hearing these reports that there is some communication going on between the driver and the owner of the tow truck. So hopefully they can talk to this guy and get him to pull over. Again, you know, it's just along with the LAPD, you just don't know what the situation is. We don't know why this guy fled. We don't know why he's taking these chances and evading the officers. And again, he has been, as you know, as that other officer said earlier, the best way to describe it, well-behaved while driving. So they're not being aggressive. They are just kind of keeping an eye on him and trying to find out where he's going and figure out what's going on. But again, still not stopping is just about as bad. You know, officers do not know why he just doesn't pull over and say, okay, hey, take me into custody. And again, that seems to be what the whole issue is right now. There was, like they said, there was possibly some kind of confrontation. Excuse us while that grip truck gets in our way. This is Hollywood, California. We're going right by the Hollywood Bowl. We're going to be turning into a Vine here very shortly and coming up on the Kodak Theater unless he makes some kind of turn here shortly. But again, you know, officers from the LAPD, we know that Van Nuys Division was the initial officers on this pursuit. Possibly they're going to be the ones mostly behind there. We might see some officers now from the Hollywood Division joining in. And of course the airship keeping very close tabs on this guy and calling out the location to the people on the ground so that if he does pull over, they'll be in a position to come in and maybe block off any type of exit plans that this guy might have. Again, we're southbound on Vine now. You can see we're coming up onto the Kodak area. This is where coming up on Franklin, I believe.
Yeah, and you know what, Stu, what you're coming up on is a lot of traffic. At this particular hour, that intersection itself is very crowded.
Extremely crowded. When I took that moment to take a look out the window, and all I see are stopped vehicles. So he's going to be coming up into a lot of traffic. And again, this might be the opportunity officers want. You know, even though he's might be in some traffic, he might be stopped. Maybe officers can actually just walk up to the car, and maybe that might be enough to get him to stop.
Well, Stu, when
you see him.
Stu, when you were helping out the Van Nuys police or the LAPD earlier, when you guys zoomed on that to give them perhaps some information about signage on the truck, was there any indication, anything written on that truck about where this truck is from, other than, you know, perhaps a phone number?
No, there. You know that's we were doing that earlier too. We kind of wanted to get an idea. No, we saw the phone number. We could make out the name on the side of the truck, and that's what we passed along. They were also wondering, some of the AAA vehicles have some kind of numbering on them. We didn't see any of that either. But yeah, the LAPD, the helicopter, was asking us for that help, and you can see the officers right there on Vine. They're all just waiting for this guy to stop. But yeah, we just handed off what we could, and that we actually gave out the phone number. We just called it out, and my pilot Dan just gave it out on the radio. So you know, I'm sure that the officers on the ground also have been making an effort to get a hold of this guy, and I believe that they're talking to the owner of the pickup truck. Looks like he's setting up for a left turn here on Hollywood as we're coming down Vine right now. You
wonder if there's some kind of miscommunication with this driver and police officers in terms of maybe not understanding the language. Yeah. There could be that kind of issue simply because of what he's done, if he's working for this company, and knowing that the police officers are following him for him to take off like that. You just never know what's going through his head.
He's been a good driver. I mean, look at his turn signal right
signals. That's correct.
Yeah,
he hasn't he hasn't been driving recklessly. Is this the first time, though, Stu, that he's gone off pattern? Because I think earlier, when on our sister station KCAL 9, we heard he was making circles around the Studio City, Sherman Oaks area.
Oh, definitely. He was staying in the studios up in the valley. We were staying in the nicer neighborhoods, staying by Ventura Boulevard, just kind of like you said, just kind of zigzagging through those smaller streets, and you know, in shortcuts. If you live in the valley and this time of day, you know those little shortcuts, and that's what he was staying on. He was staying on those little shortcut streets and staying relatively out of traffic. But again, right now, this is the first we've seen of him making any kind of drive out of the valley. We're definitely in the Hollywood area. We're on Hollywood Boulevard now. We saw him. He took off his vest. You know, maybe if he did work for this company, they told him he's fired, so he took off his vest. But again, you know, officers don't know what they're dealing with exactly. They know that this guy doesn't want to stop, and like you said earlier, you know, what the reason is. You know, it could be something as simple as miscommunication. Maybe he was scared. Maybe he's worried. Anything. But even by now, he should have been able to calm himself and reason that the best thing to do is just pull over. Yeah. And he hasn't done that. So officers are definitely still behind him and still making every effort to get this guy to stop.
Well, I hope he wasn't going to help somebody out, because they're pretty,
We have confirmed that this tow truck is from a company called Portella Towing in Lake Forest. And now, as we sit here and look at this, Pat, you and I have been down that boulevard 1,000 times.
Yes.
Why does it take us an hour to go 5 blocks? And on this day that this guy's trying to elude police, granted not at a high rate of speed, there's no traffic whatsoever.
No, not on this particular street.
Crazy.
Stu, you know, I mean, we're not trying to make light, and then again, yes, we are in a way. Simply, thank goodness, because there's been no reckless driving here.
Yeah, he has been a very safe driver.
Yeah, and we haven't heard that he's wanted for anything that is serious at this point. Now, is he at a light, Stu, or did he just stop?
No, he's at a light. He always seems to keep his distance when he comes up to the lights. Like, it was unusual for him when we turned onto Hollywood. He kind of came up right on that car. For the most part, he always keeps a little bit of distance in front of him, and I'm sure the officers right behind him and the helicopter keep an eye on that as well. That would indicate that he's giving himself an out. Possibly, if the officers approach too quickly, he can make a turn and get out. Rarely have we seen him actually box himself into a situation where, if the officers ran up, that he couldn't get out of there. So that kind of shows that he knows what he's doing. He's got a plan, even though his plan might be a little weak at this time. He doesn't want to stop, and he's not planning on giving up anytime soon. And we lost him behind the building here. We'll move around a little.
Stu, from what we understand, Portola Trucking Company has been in contact with our assignment desk here at CBS 2, and they tell us that an employee of the company loaned this vehicle to his friend, and he has no idea why the police are following him.
Yeah, he says he doesn't know. You know, so perhaps it leads to a situation where if he was involved in some sort of incident in traffic, and, you know, if he bumped somebody or somebody bumped him, he may not be, I don't know for certain. We need to find out if you have certain restrictions regarding driving a tow truck, you know, versus like an 18-wheeler or a double-axle vehicle or anything like that. Perhaps
could be.
That's a requirement of state law. I don't know with any certainty whatsoever, but maybe he just panicked because here he is borrowing this tow truck, and he ends up in the situation where officers are involved.
And we still didn't get the full nature because I believe at the time Lieutenant Nyman didn't quite know why they stopped him in the first place, or what transpired.
Something transpired, and the officers wanted a supervisor for some reason on site, and then in the interim before the supervisor got there, he jumped back into the tow truck and took off.
Well, what have you noticed differently since we've been talking, Stu?
Well, not too much. You know, I was listening to you guys talking about how this is a friend of somebody. So the driver of the tow truck lent this vehicle to a friend of his. I guess that won't be happening anytime in the near future again, I'm sure. But you know, even if this guy is unaware or doesn't know why the officers are following him, you know, everybody knows that when you see an officer with lights and sirens, you pull over. And he's not making that, he's not doing that. He's got somebody talking to him again. This is your typical Los Angeles pursuit, you know, your couple moments of fame. So somebody must know that this guy is being chased. And again, they're waving at him. They're trying to get his attention.
Could be somebody that he knows.
That's true, too. Yeah, and again, let's tell you exactly where we are.
It's a movie, Stu. What is this?
Yeah, what are those?
Who are these people with the banner? Like you say, Hollywood.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, he's definitely drinking up his couple minutes of fame. Hopefully, like you said, you know, right now nothing bad has happened. We've seen these things go south very quickly, and you know that's obvious what everybody's worried about. That's the reason why we watch these pursuits. We want to know, you know, what's going to happen. What is this guy going to do? And you know, and I'm sure, hopefully, you know, most people are hoping for the best. They're hoping this guy's just going to give up. And then we just go, another pursuit. But, you know, sometimes these guys, they start doing these crazy things right at the last minute. They get desperate, and that's when things go south. And hopefully nobody else gets hurt. That's always the big concern of any of these pursuits, is that nobody gets hurt, but even more so somebody that is not involved in the pursuit getting hurt.
Well,
looks like we're going to be making an up.
Stu, it certainly is in his best interest, as we all know, to go ahead and just pull over. And probably, I guess, what perhaps if there is anything troubling or worrisome in this situation, you have to assume that by now the friend who lent him the tow truck has been in contact with him via the cell phone and has probably urged him to pull over, but so far we have not seen any inclination on the part of this driver to do just that. So if there is something that perhaps is a bit troubling, that may be it.
And you're hoping that officers may have an opportunity in terms of how traffic is flowing anyway, since he is driving slowly, that they can use a spike strip and just stop it.
Well, the spike strip, that word has been thrown out. We've heard that on the scanner. We heard him talking about that. But again, with all these other vehicles out, it might not be that practical. You know, the officer would be very close to running in front of this vehicle to drop that spike strip. And again, we don't know what this guy, apparently he did have some contact with officers earlier. And, you know, maybe, you know, the officer that would be putting that spike strip out would put himself in an unnecessary danger. So, you know, again, those are probably part of the things they're thinking about. You said that the vehicle belongs in Lake Forest. I haven't seen him get on any freeways or heading that way. So, you know, that kind of, you know, maybe, you know, the idea that he's going to bring the vehicle back, that doesn't seem to really be setting well either right now. We're getting into the Little Armenia area. This is going to be Hollywood, and I believe we're turning on Western. Yeah, we're going to be making a southbound turn on Western. That gray vehicle right there, just so you know, that is an officer's vehicle also, and then behind him are all the black and whites. And again, you know, they just keeping their distance. We hear them talking, but again, right now, they're just going to wait this guy out. They're just going to let him go, let him drive until unless he starts doing anything reckless.
You know, Paul and Stu, I was just wondering if they have sirens on, because if you notice those two people on the corner, they just kind of seem oblivious. When he first made the turn and then the gray police car and the other black and whites were further behind, they looked as if this was a normal day and not too much was going on, which may be the plan.
Yeah, I think the plan is exactly, in fact, what they've been doing. That's just using that helicopter. I mean, clearly, you look in the rearview mirror, you see 20 police cars back there and the unmarked one right behind you. It's time to, you know, pull over, stop, and get out of this vehicle.
Well, he's practicing safe driving measures. He looks like he was 10-2.
And Stu, is the light red or is he just sitting there?
No, the light is red. The light is red, and you know the question about the lights and sirens is when they're in tracking mode, they shut those off. I believe that's part of the plan to maybe relieve the stress from the guy that they're chasing. They don't want to, you know, they don't want him looking in the rearview mirror and being like, oh, I'm being chased. So they shut those off. Obviously, they're keeping an eye on traffic, and I'm wondering, I try to look ahead every now and then to see, but I'm wondering if one of the reasons why the traffic is so light is because other officers are blocking traffic, perhaps clearing the way just to let this guy let this guy do his little leisurely drive here.
Boy, what a monumental task that would be at this time of day in that particular area.
Can you tell, Stu, sure. Even if you widen out your purview there?
Well, there you go, a little bit wider. This is that's the 101 freeway, western, and there's southbound traffic, obviously, and not obviously, but luckily seems to be pretty light for this guy. Looks like we're setting up for another turn here. I'll get you the name of the street in just a second. And yeah, he's going to be making a left-hand again. I just heard the LAPD saying that we're definitely on western. He's setting up for a left-hand turn. And you can see officers crowding them a little bit right there.
Yeah.
Other people getting out of the way. Possibly maybe they're just hitting their sirens, making that that little doot doot noise that they do to sometimes get people out of the way. That could be what they're doing when they're making these turns. But
well, he's in a residential area now. The streets are a lot more narrow.
Well, definitely, and maybe that's. We're on Fountain. I'm sorry. That's what I was trying to make sure. We're definitely on Fountain. We're established on Fountain, and we're eastbound. And maybe again, maybe he's just going home. Maybe he's just bringing the tow truck back to his friend's house. I'm kind of curious where that friend that let this guy drive the truck lives. You can see him sitting there. He seems to be deep in thought as he's driving there. That would be my way to word it. He's got his hand, he's kind of one hand up by his chin and the other one on the steering wheel. And he's just driving along. So, again, we don't know. Officers definitely, they don't know either. And they want this to come to an end. But again, the waiting game is their best plan right now. And they seem to really be sticking to that.
Well, it looks like he's just sort of come to a stop right here in the middle of a T intersection at least. Or is he waiting on that traffic ahead of him there? No, now he's creeping up. Tough to tell.
Yeah, it looks like maybe there's a light in front of the other cars there, and maybe he's waiting.
Yeah. He's definitely. They're just waiting. We're at Normandy. That's the major north-south right there is Normandy. We're going to be cutting that. You're going to go through Normandy, or is yep? He's just going through Normandy. There he goes. And again, just we're still on Fountain.
Well, Fountain's a street that so many people use as a little way to avoid some of the major streets.
Look at the traffic.
Yeah, Fountain can oftentimes, even during the height of rush hour, be just a good alternative to get off those major streets. And traffic's not too bad on it right now. It's always a good choice.
Well, but it's busy enough we can tell people are using that as another thoroughfare to get where they have to go. Yeah, he looks pretty calm and collected right there.
Doesn't he?
There we go. We're making a little bit of a turn.
Signaled, however.
We're definitely northbound Edgemont now from Fountain. You seem to make a kind of a little bit of an aggressive turn there, but not too much of an aggressive turn. Again, he might be just trying to bring this truck back to a location. Again, we don't know. Officers from the LAPD still following. Again, he seems to know all the little shortcuts. When we were in the valley, he was taking Whitsett and the other, those like Fountain would be, just one of the streets to avoid the major traffic. But now, this is the same thing he was doing in the valley. We're back on Hollywood. We're going the opposite direction on Hollywood Boulevard. So, again, now you got to guess. Maybe this guy's just biding his time.
Yeah, are we heading west on Hollywood Boulevard, Stu? Is that what we're doing?
Yep. We're definitely heading westbound back on Hollywood Boulevard, and it's going back the direction that we started out in. So again, you can see the officers behind him, following him. Again, this guy, this is a tow truck. This is a vehicle that has a lot of weight to it, a lot of girth. So that might be another one of the reasons why the officers are not making that attempt to do a pit, to just bring this guy to a stop. And we just passed through Normandy again, but now we're on Hollywood, westbound on Hollywood. And, light traffic. We haven't seen anybody waving at him this time. But officers definitely still behind him, quite a few. We got one LAPD helicopter still overhead, calling the pursuit, calling the streets out for us. You got another officer coming up the other way on a cross street. And
there's one
again,
ahead.
Yeah, and maybe this guy is, they have a lot of protocol. The LAPD, they can't just, it's not like the Wild West where they can just join into a pursuit if they see it. They have, they have their assignments, and that guy probably not allowed to get in the pursuit. Perhaps he was just in the area and tracking along side streets just in case this did come to an end. He could give his officers, fellow officers, a hand, but again. He just made the turn, kept on driving, and I'm going to take a look, actually, see if he's blocking any traffic up there. He might be. There's another officer making a turn.
That's right.
And as
does make you wonder.
we approach nearing the bottom of the hour here, we should probably let folks at home know you're watching CBS 2 News at 5. This pursuit actually started before 5 o'clock, right, Pat?
Yeah, just not too long before 5 o'clock.
Yeah, not too long before 5. It started over in the valley. This tow truck was involved in some sort of incident involving traffic. The police showed up, and they apparently had some sort of altercation with the fellow who was driving this vehicle. They called for a supervisor. In the meantime, prior to the supervisor's arrival, he climbed back into the tow truck and took off. And it's been a slow-speed pursuit, no doubt about that. He's been driving very carefully. He signals when he turns.
Okay, Paul, this looks like significant here, Stu, because it looks like he is pulling over on purpose to stop. Is that a light there, and he would be in that lane to make a right turn?
Yeah, it looks that way.
Okay. As Paul mentioned, he was driving through Sherman Oaks, Studio City, for a number of minutes before actually heading into the Hollywood area, which is where he has remained. But certainly he stopped making those circular drives in the Valley area and has proceeded into Hollywood. And not exactly sure of where he's going to go from here, but and we're not exactly sure of what that confrontation was. Some have said that there could have been an actual altercation with the peace officer, but at the time, Lieutenant Andy Nyman could not confirm exactly what transpired. We do know that he is driving a friend's tow truck, not his truck, but the friend that works for the company, I imagine it's Portola Towing, gave his friend, this person driving now, this truck to drive.
Which has turned out today to be a rather big oops.
Yeah,
so
certainly.
An interesting conversation between that friend who loaned the tow truck and the owner of the tow truck company. And because his driving has not been reckless, as we've said, he's been maintaining sort of regular speeds. He signals when he turns. Lieutenant Andy Nyman with the LAPD explained to us that they went into, as Stu has reported himself, they're in tracking mode. So the cops are back, their sirens are off, their lights are off, and the helicopter, the LAPD helicopter is up ahead, keeping an eye on that. And by doing so, they hope he would just, at some point, just pull over, return to the tow truck company, or go home and just get out of the vehicle.
Which is in Lake Forest. The,
exactly.
tow truck company is located in Lake Forest. We've been sitting here talking about different options the police could have in terms of pit maneuvers, but that's a big truck, that's a heavy vehicle, or laying down spike strips. But the traffic certainly makes it pretty difficult to even do a spike strip maneuver there when you've got so much traffic on the streets. So in that particular situation, it seems like the LAPD is going to sort of ride this one out, as long as he does not get aggressive.
Yeah,
and he
exactly.
hasn't up until this point.
And Stu, since you're up above with that bird's eye view right there, why don't you give us an idea of exactly where we are right now?
Well, we're northbound on Western, and if Western kind of comes to an end there and turns into Los Feliz, and that seems to be the direction he's heading right now. He's still a little bit away from that big sweeping turn, but definitely he has crossed Hollywood Boulevard, and he's making his way north now on Western. He could opt to go up into the mountains, but we haven't seen him do that in the past, and he has. At first, I was kind of hoping that maybe he was making his way to a destination. It really seems like he has no destination. He's just kind of driving around, biding his time. we're coming up on the next major is going to be Franklin. That's the light we're waiting for right now. And, you know, there's a little bit of a gap, and then you see all the officers. There they are, and they're still behind him, and the helicopter's still above him, you know. And again, you know, he's not doing anything crazy. He's just kind of driving, but again, not pulling over. And LAPD, you know, doing, you know, what they're trained to do. They're making these plans. They've talked about this in the past. They have policies. The public seems to want LAPD to handle these type of pursuits with the kit gloves, and LAPD responding and doing just that. And again, this time, you know, he's not creating any kind of traffic hazards. He's not doing anything too radical. And there's that big sweeping turn we talked about. Now we're officially on Los Feliz, in the Los Feliz area. And again, if he keeps going this way, eventually he will get to possibly the Glendale area, the 5 freeways coming up. But what we've been seeing is, my guess, he's going to make some sort of turn and just head back into the Hollywood area perhaps, and just drive around in big circles out there. But again, you know, if somebody knows him or can talk to him, they should call him on the phone and just try to talk him off the ledge. Get him just to pull over and just put your hands up. You know, you got your 15 minutes of fame. Everybody's been watching. It's been interesting, but you know, let's bring this to an end.
Well, apparently, was there a contact with the friend? I'm wondering if they talked to him, or if they just talked to LAPD or to the towing company itself and relayed the information that he let the guy drive the truck, but he doesn't understand why the officers are following him because he didn't do anything wrong.
Well, I'll tell you, if I were the officers, I'd go ahead and ask a friend to make a phone call and talk to you.
Sure,
I said just talk him off the ledge. You know, if you're one of those drivers around this guy in this particular situation today, and you're just driving along and you look and all of a sudden you see all those black and whites back there, you're asking yourself, well, what's going on? Where are they going? Because you have no idea from this guy that a pursuit is taking place.
No, and you would think almost he didn't, but by this time he has to know that because of the car is behind him.
Exactly.
And hopefully someone has been in contact with him. And I don't know, isn't that, in those kinds of instances, can the LAPD possibly even track his cell phone?
You know, Pat, we've been keeping an eye on him. We're looking through the window every chance we get. You know, he's not on the cell phone. You know, there could be many reasons for that. Maybe he tossed it out the window. Maybe his battery's dead.
Or maybe
he's just not answering any calls. You know, but definitely just kind of sitting there driving along. You know, probably pondering, you know, what's going to be the next move here. How much trouble is he really in, and etc. And you know, him not stopping isn't making his troubles any less. You know, he just keeps seeming to add and add and add, and he should just, you know, just bring this to an end, pull over, let the officers take him in. He's, you know, get booked, and whatever issues he has will get resolved. But he's not doing that, and now we're still in the Los Feliz area. On Los Feliz, you can see a lot of traffic here. He's going to do the old-fashioned way, just read the sign for you. They're coming up on Vermont, and you know. Officers just, you know, they're keeping their distance, but it's like, you know, it's like Paul said also, you know, it's creating a lot of havoc. Other people are on the streets, they're looking, they're saying, what's going on here? Many times I've seen people on the street on foot running when he comes to a stop somewhere. So obviously people are aware that something is going on. LAPD is in force. You know, you don't usually see, you know, 7 to 10 officers driving around in formation, so something is going on, and it is catching the public's eye. But this guy not stopping, and again, you know, we can talk about the beginning of the of this whole thing. What caught our ear, you know, we are always up here listening, keeping track of, trying to, you know, figure out where our next story is going to be. And you know, it was a very unusual call. We did hear a Van Nuys unit. Just calling for backup and an air unit, and but for no specific reason. And many times they need that because there's a crowd. Maybe he has more than one suspect he's dealing with. There's many reasons why. There was no reason given for quite a while. Officers were responding as they do, and then we started hearing, you know, the white tow truck call. There was a white tow truck fleeing. Possibly assault on an officer. We heard the technical term on the scanner is assault on a PO, PO being a peace officer.
Well, you know what, Stu, as we were talking about what he has or has not done, and that he would be better off pulling over, unless the laws have changed. I believe several years ago there was one that went on the books that said you're evading a police officer in a pursuit of this kind, that's an automatic 6 month charge. Now, you put on top of that assault on a peace officer. I mean, as you said, it would make more sense for him to give up and turn himself in, because he's already got that 6-month charge that he's looking at. I mean, that's the minimum from what I understand. At least several years ago, that was law, that was an automatic charge for evading police in a pursuit.
Right, and you know, these are the things that, you know, maybe this is what's keeping him going. Maybe, you know, we look at it from one side of the coin where we go, you know, this would be the reason why I just stop. I'd say, you know what, let's stop racking up the charges. But maybe he's, you know, got some sort of plan. Maybe he's just enjoying the last couple of minutes of freedom here. Maybe he's trying. You know, I was hoping he was going to bring the tow truck back to the owner. But again, it just seems like he's just biding his time, driving along. Definitely well established in the Los Feliz area now. We're on Los Feliz. We're going to be coming up onto the 5 freeway here, or the Griffith Park. The back entrance there pretty soon too, and you know, we're actually, it's kind of hard to tell, but we're already starting the downhill slope of Los Feliz down towards the 5 freeway right now.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to get credit for good driving in this situation, and I'm not sure a guy like this has a plan. I think it's panic rather that sets in, and I think even though he appears to be comfortable, Stu, when you've zoomed in on him, you know, he's got the arm up on the side by the window, and then sometimes it's across his stomach or chest. I think a guy like this, it's just every second is just sort of, he's trying to process information, like, where am I headed, where am I going, you know, what in the heck is going on here? It's got to, none of us have ever sat in the driver's seat in a pursuit, so, you know, we can't say with any authority. But
and I'm sure every guy who has, they have got something entirely different going through their minds. And again, you can see officers now at least getting a little bit closer, making their presence known. I'm sure that this guy knows that he's being followed. He has no way out. Maybe if they start showing their colors a little bit here, he might actually pull over. Again, you know, they haven't. It's been in the LAPD's jurisdiction the entire time. They haven't had an opportunity to hand this off to CHP if he had gotten on a freeway. So, but Paul, Pat.
all right.
Yeah, Stu, and then again, we're talking about the difficulty of a pit maneuver or of a spike strip of some kind to just stop this. Because at this point, it's just police are following a guy driving a tow truck, and you know, he could stop when he runs out of gas.
Yeah, it'd be very difficult to pit a vehicle that has that much weight,
You are.
particularly the weight in the rear end, which is generally where they, you know, begin the assault on a vehicle with the pit maneuver.
You know, you would think if they had any more information, or if they had received information this person was dangerous driving this vehicle, we might see a pretty different situation right now.
Yeah, as Lieutenant Andy Nyman, who was with us earlier, as he said, you know, this guy was not exhibiting reckless behavior driving this vehicle. So they chose to take the path of just tracking him with a helicopter, having the officers back off, no lights, no sirens, in a hope of, because he's been a somewhat calm driver, and I think that's all in essence to keep him in that sort of state of mind so that they don't endanger other drivers or other pedestrians in a situation like this.
And again, we have pondered where this person could be going. He did show a pattern of sort of driving in circles at first, but lately he's been, well, he headed toward Hollywood. Now he's in the Los Feliz area. So
It seemed as though he knew, when you and I were watching him earlier, Pat, didn't it seem to you that he appeared to know the valley better?
Yes. Yes, but here he is. I mean, he's making, well, some leisurely turns, I guess. And at one point, he sort of made a sharp turn. It's almost as if someone was directing him, okay, turn here. I don't know if there's navigation in that truck, but I doubt it. But.
Or on his phone, or...
Well, you know, all the talk earlier about him being lucky with traffic and everybody being able to make good time, that's all come to an end here. Even so much so that officers from the LAPD got out of their cars. They had a stance there, still quite a distance. But the only reason he's been stopped that long is because there's a lot of traffic here on Los Feliz, and you know, we're coming right up on the 5 freeway. You know, people are making turns here, left turns. Their traffic's gonna start moving. And there he goes. That's the first crazy thing he's seen. I guess he had enough of that waiting for the traffic here on Los Feliz. He cut somebody off. He made a U-turn, and now he's going the other way on Los Feliz, and going to be driving right by all the officers that have been following him. That was the first thing we've seen, him doing something aggressive or out of the ordinary. And again, it seems to be because there was a lot of traffic. Right now, again, I'm looking ahead, trying to look ahead and keep the shot at the same time. Again, it's basically what you see in cars, but everything's moving. He's going to be keeping those speeds about 20, 30 miles an hour here on Los Feliz, but he's basically just going back the same direction he came from.
All right, we understand, Stu. We just got some more information, and if Paul can help me out here, I was trying to write and listen at the same time. Son of the mechanic was fixing the truck?
Yeah, the truck was taken, this particular truck was taken into a mechanic to get fixed. This is from Portola Towing Company. This truck was taken in to have some repairs. The mechanic was working on it. His son took the truck without anyone's permission, apparently. It's the son of the mechanic who's now driving this vehicle. And what he did was he went to a call, because these trucks all have radios. They're all frequency dispatch, radio dispatch.
So he was going to make a little extra money.
He was going to, well, we might assume that. He went to an actual call for a tow truck, and perhaps maybe, Pat, that was his motive. It's hard to say what his motive was. Maybe he just liked the thrill of showing up there and being the tow truck operator. But
to say, I can't fix your vehicle, I'm just here.
And so he's driving this truck without anyone's permission, including his father, who is the mechanic who had been working on this thing. That is the situation. We just got that, once again, from the Portola Towing Company.
And you may surmise that police were called about this because they obviously showed up to ask him, what are you doing driving the truck? Or this truck was reported taken, I don't know if I want to say stolen. And then that's where the confrontation happened, and he took off. But boy, he's got to know he's in trouble with his dad. He's in trouble with the LAPD.
I think we have a pretty clear picture of this puzzle, which was a jumbled jigsaw puzzle for a while, but now this is all making sense. That's why those officers then called the supervisor, because they were probably getting some confusing answers from this driver about, why are you with this tow truck?
Yes.
Exactly. And so what happened was, before the supervisor got there, for those of you just tuning in, this young man, don't know his age, jumped into the tow truck and took off. It's been a rather lazy, slow pursuit throughout the valley. Then he went over the Cahuenga Pass and went into Hollywood, cruised around there for a while.
And he just made a maneuver, didn't he, Stu? This is the first time we saw him actually he did what most of us would like to do when traffic is so bad. He made a U-turn, an illegal U-turn. Is that right, Stu? And then headed back in the opposite direction.
Yeah, he was sitting there waiting in traffic on Los Feliz, and right by the 5 right there, it really bunches up. It's a very, very busy spot, and, you know, waiting. Even the officers from LAPD got out of their cars, and I guess that might have been what gave him the cue that he needs to make his move, and he did. He just kind of went around, cut in front of somebody, and then made this wide U-turn, and is going back the same direction now on Los Feliz. We're going to be coming up on Western here in a minute. That big same sweeping turn we talked about earlier. He's going to be coming back up on that end, and he's going to be back in the Hollywood area. So again, you know, he's like Paul was saying, this guy probably has a lot on his mind, worried about a lot of things, and you know, doesn't want to stop. But you know, again, we're right back at square one.
Well, you know what, Stu?
You know, when you don't want to.
Stu, like most of us growing up, I mean, you know, this guy's got to worry about the LAPD, but like most of us growing up, because I've heard Pat tell stories about her family. I know my situation growing up. You're not so much worried. If you're this kid, you're not so much worried about the LAPD. You're worried about your dad.
Especially if the truck was entrusted to the father. He was actually fixing this. This is not the joyride you want to make.
No. Bad choice.
Yeah.
So
well, you know,
is he driving slower?
That is definitely true.
Is he driving slower to you guys? Is he driving slower?
He's been driving a little bit slower. He's been very cautious lately. That would probably be the best words. You know, again, I think he's probably just driving slower, keeping an eye on the traffic ahead of him. Again, he keeps that distance. He never really gets right up on the car in front of him. That could be because he's just a cautious driver, but I believe that's because he always wants to have a way out. If the LAPD gets up behind him, he wants to be able to make that turn and get away from them, or cut somebody off to leave. You know, now we're southbound Western again. We're going to be heading back to, I guess, the first street's going to be Hollywood, then Sunset. Again, you don't know which way he's going to go, but we're just driving through the Hollywood area, following the tow truck around. LAPD doing the same thing, hoping that this guy would just give up and stop. You know, maybe somebody can tell him that his dad's going to be a little lenient on him, perhaps, if he just gives up right now, and maybe that'll sway his mood. But again, you know, just driving his slow pace, keeping his distance. You know, he's coming up. Okay, I thought maybe we were going to make another crazy turn, but looks like we're just stopping for traffic. And southbound Western coming up on Hollywood Boulevard.
Well, we're approaching 2 hours since this thing began, and perhaps this might be the time to ponder the question of how much fuel does he have in that vehicle. I mean, it may come to an end because he runs out of gas or diesel, whichever that thing operates on.
Well, that could definitely be that. Like I said, he's probably just biding his time in there. The last couple of minutes. You got to wonder if he's sitting down there thinking to myself, I just got this feeling everybody's looking at me.
Well, good call.
Everybody is.
Yeah, it looks like he's
eyes all over.
It looks like he's in a lane. Does he have a right signal on? Because he had been using turn signals.
You can't really see it right now. He's kind of like splitting hairs there. So, he might be going straight. He might be making the right turn on Hollywood Boulevard. The light's just turning green. We'll see here in just a moment. LAPD is definitely still here too. The helicopter is giving the same calls we are, basically telling everybody where he's at, what he's doing. Looks like he's going to be making a right turn here, though.
See those people, look at those people on the corner. They know what's going on.
Now
that guy
they
on
do.
the phone right there.
Yep.
The other person on the phone.
They got their, picture phones.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to grab a picture of the tow truck pursuit coming through Hollywood.
And then all the other black and whites coming behind.
Yep.
What a great day to be a tourist down on Hollywood Boulevard.
Come to LA, see a pursuit live.
Yeah, exactly. What you always hear about. So we have to figure out.
You're saying those people are tourists?
Well,
Possibly, because it is
possibly, yeah.
Hollywood. And thank goodness we're able to have a little bit of brevity here, simply because no one has been hurt, and this person has been obeying traffic signals. He's driving at a cautious level of speed, as Stu Mundell wants to point out. And again, Paul, as we were wondering just how much fuel could be left in this vehicle, trying to ascertain even could he be going back to where the tow truck company is?
Yeah,
where his father's located, back to the garage?
Yeah, we don't know where the garage is, where this thing was being repaired. We know that the tow truck company was in Lake Forest, but we got to assume, since it started in the valley, he probably took the vehicle, didn't get that far. Here's the call for a tow truck. This is what happened. He took the car from his father, the mechanic, and then went to that call. The reason he went there, as you pointed out, Pat, maybe he thought he'd make a little cash. Maybe he just liked the idea of being a tow truck operator,
And it seems as he could be headed back to the valley.
Yeah.
And maybe headed back to
where you're comfortable, absolutely. Because he certainly appeared, as you mentioned, he certainly appeared to be more comfortable in the valley than he is over here.
And these are the same people we passed earlier.
Banner,
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Again, Hollywood.
Yeah. What does that banner say, Stu? I can't.
We can get a little bit closer here, try to read it. It looks like it's upside down. They should do their planning a little bit better for their media. They need their PR people to help them out there. I can't make out what it says on there, but again, it just shows you. And then also, when we were talking earlier, I saw, again, as we're coming down Hollywood Boulevard, obviously very popular street, there's people running on the sidewalks, people coming up to the cars. As I go wide, you can see people just coming out, waving at this guy, giving him his hero welcome for not pulling over. And so it is unusual. LAPD definitely has their hands full with this guy. Again, hopefully it's just going to come to a normal end. You guys have been talking about how we're wondering if this guy's going to run out of fuel. Sky 2 up here, we're going to have to be getting fuel here shortly as well. I know that our comrades are up here, and they'll probably be taking over for us momentarily. I'm waiting to hear when that's going to happen, but I know that I've been talking to the pilot in between, and we're in need of fuel, and we're going to have to be leaving here in just a few moments.
All right. Well, Stu, we'll probably let you go ahead and get off on that right away to refuel the ship. And I do know, well, the other one is on the way or is there, so we'll stay on your picture until it arrives.
You know what I'm hoping here? That he's going back to his dad. That somebody has told him his dad is not happy with him, and maybe he's taking this truck back to where he is.
It'd be a smart thing to do.
Because, well, he's going back in the direction. I mean, he's passed this way before on his way in this direction. Maybe he is going back to the valley where the vehicle was taken in the first place and where his dad could possibly be waiting for.
Yeah, although it might be better to be in police custody than your pop's custody when you burned your father this badly.
Yes, that would be in my case, that's for sure. So we've been, ladies and gentlemen, we have been following this certainly from the start of the 5 o'clock hour, and this has been a pursuit, a rather slow speed pursuit or a cautious speed pursuit that happened in the San Fernando Valley. This was a tow truck that this guy's father was working on in a garage, and he somehow took this vehicle and made a stop, or actually took a call as the radio came on with someone that needed help. And apparently the police were notified. They stopped the vehicle, stopped the driver. There was a confrontation, and this guy sped off. And this is what we've been doing for this length of time, is following this pursuit of this driver in this vehicle who went from the valley through Hollywood to Los Feliz and then made a U-turn right in the middle of, I believe he was on Los Feliz Boulevard or Franklin Boulevard, and now appears to be headed back to the valley where this started.
Yeah, and he has not been an erratic driver whatsoever. What if you've just joined us, what you've seen is what we've seen for you know, almost a full hour coming up here. It did start just before 5 o'clock, and Pat and I were witnessing that on our sister station KCAL 9 during the KCAL 9 4 o'clock news, and driving just like this for the most part. He did spend a good part of this initially over in the valley, where, as Pat and I mentioned, he seemed more comfortable, more familiar with the streets, and so we can only assume that's probably where he wants to get back to. And as we've mentioned, he's certainly got a lot on his mind right now because he's got the LAPD after him. He's no doubt his father's upset with him. And
the owner of the tow truck company, for sure.
Yeah.
And we've also mentioned, well, we had Lieutenant Andy Nyman on, Paul, remember, saying that they decided to really have tracking mode with this vehicle, with the driver, and apparent, given the nature of the situation, thank goodness,
You're
that
absolutely right.
it's nothing, it doesn't appear to be something more dire. They are just appear to be letting this ride out.
yeah, just play out. Yeah, he was not an aggressive driver, so they certainly didn't want to make him more aggressive, because he's been following most of the laws. You know, look at these guys right
Now
here.
more people have lined up,
Exactly.
no doubt, watching coverage
Absolutely.
and knowing what this is, and they're taking pictures as if this is a hero.
It's an event.
Yes, it is certainly an event. That is true.
And it's an event not only interesting in the respect that he's, you know, been obeying all the traffic laws for the most part, except for not stopping when police officers wanted him to stop. Look at this. Someone's going to get a picture of him right there. But it's just gone on for such a long period of time, and it's been so easy, as you see right there, for people to sort of stop and come up to the car and snap their picture with their phone, or roll their video, or do whatever it is they need to do. Not a lot of lights and sirens going on because they're in that tracking mode, but there certainly are a lot of police vehicles behind him, which obviously causes a great scene as well.
And as Stu mentioned, he has certainly kept the distance between himself and the vehicle in front of him, so he is not in any way. And again, here he's driving rather cautiously. Not sure how much traffic is. Oh, there he is. He made an illegal turn, didn't he?
I think he was in the middle lane,
That was an unsafe turn.
which we've not seen a lot of today. Earlier he made, let's just, for want of a better term, let's call it an aggressive left-hand turn, where he sort of sped up,
Yes.
cut the corner. But other than that, in that turn, that's basically all we've seen from him in the way of driving unlawfully, except for the fact that he's currently unlawful because he's evading police.
Which again, that's at least 6 months, or he could be charged with at least 6 months for evading police. The assault or possible assault on a peace officer, that's something different altogether.
Yeah, it was a confrontation
If that
or an
is the case.
altercation at the site where he actually got back into this tow truck and took off while officers were waiting for a supervisor.
But we seem to be
appear.
going back over tracks here.
Could be.
And
He's certainly driven-
if he's coming back to the valley, he's certainly going to, in Hollywood, even approach more traffic.
Well, and he, as you know, Pat, he is driven through some of the busiest areas in Los Angeles.
And
during
relatively
rush hour.
easy.
Yeah, relatively in easy fashion. You're absolutely right.
Well, he's getting into a lot of traffic here on the northbound Vine area, just in the Hollywood. And you know, all those people coming out there and coming up to the car and the truck, these are one of the things that LAPD unhappy about. These are one of the reasons why they don't do these type of tracking modes and just let these guys go, because now public is becoming a hazard. They're getting in the way.
Correct.
If this guy chooses to just, you know, gun it, you know, and go, he could hit a pedestrian. So now the public is at danger. Also, if he does do something, maybe he does have a weapon, or maybe the officers have an opportunity to take him into custody, and they have a crowd of people around him. Now they have to deal with these crowd of people around this guy. So these are all the reasons why they tend not to do these type of maneuvers where they just go into tracking mode. Luckily, this guy, even though he is getting a lot of fanfare, I'm shocked to see so many people on the street coming up trying to take pictures. It looks like he's almost waving at this guy right now. He's being a little eclipsed by the building. But again, these are the things that the officers are, this is what LAPD does not want. They don't want this to turn into
That's true, Stu. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but not to mention, I mean, we've kept this rather light, but they're also talking about manpower for the city of Los Angeles that's being tied up. And, that's taxpayer dollar. That's taxpayer money there, trying to follow this guy, right, and get him to stop. That's tying up some resources here.
Definitely. You've got at least 3 supervisors from LAPD following this guy. You got the LAPD airship just tied up on this. It's been going so long. We trying to stay away from the industry talk, but this has been going on so long that they actually had to change the channel for the LAPD. They have their radios. They went to a different channel, as it would be, because their base channel was being taken up by this. They have other calls. There's, other things going on in the city besides this guy driving around, so they had to move channels around to accommodate this guy.
Well, that's
there's taxpayer dollars involved.
Yeah, that's a very interesting comment. Because I guess I just don't think of that there they are, they get the call, they're all on it, and boom, there's so much traffic on that channel and other calls that have to be answered that they have to move to a different frequency. Huh.
Right. And and again, it seems like he's just heading back into the valley. We heard earlier on that Lake Forest was the area where this truck was maybe perhaps registered to. That doesn't mean that that's the spot where it works out of. So yeah, but because he's definitely not going towards Lake Forest, there's no doubt about that. We're getting northbound now. Looks like we're going to be going northbound Cahuenga again. Hopefully, he doesn't get on the freeway. Again, an interesting thing is he hasn't been on the freeway. He never got on the freeway. Perhaps he has a little bit of knowledge of the LAPD. Perhaps he knows that if he gets on the freeway, CHP might take this over, and they might have an entirely different attitude about this. They might just come and say, you know what, this has been going on too long. We're going to pit him. We're going to bring this to an end now.
Yeah.
But again, he's been on surface streets. He's been in the LAPD area. He had an opportunity to get into the sheriff's area when we were in West Hollywood. Didn't go there. Just stayed in the LAPD area. So there might be a little bit of knowledge there, or maybe it's just dumb luck. Again, we just don't know. It looks like you said, this is traveled road. We've been here before, and now we're turned around and we're headed back to basically where this whole thing started.
Yeah.
Do we know where the garage is located? I mean,
mechanics garage?
No, yes.
No.
Okay, so we know that Lake Forest is where the towing company
is located.
Exactly,
yeah.
But the garage itself, where this occurred, we don't know that at this hour.
For those of you just joining us, his pop was working on the vehicle. He's a mechanic, and he took this vehicle without his father's permission, and then answered a tow truck call. For what reason, we have no idea.
And was confronted by police. Obviously, a call went out that maybe, even from the father, you never know. But they know they shouldn't have taken. He shouldn't have taken that vehicle. Officers stopped this driver, and a confrontation or incident of some kind took place. And he took off, and that's where we are with the LAPD following this truck driver.
They clearly, recognized that something was wrong, so they called for a supervisor. While they're waiting for the supervisor, he climbed back in the vehicle. And the reason he may just, be going in these rather large circles now, heading back into the valley so he can go in circles, is because, ultimately, he's headed to a confrontation not just with the LAPD, but with his father.
With his dad. And now he's back in the Studio City area. So this is around the area where this started in the first place.
Yeah.
And if he didn't know he was being followed, he certainly has in the course of this pursuit, with people lining up, taking pictures, and as Stu said, all the fanfare.
Yeah,
you wonder, is he stopping under this underpass?
But I think he's doing what he's done all afternoon, Pat. I think he's keeping some distance between him and that vehicle right in front of him, so he feels as though he has options. Not that he's exercised any sort of erratic behavior, except for the one U-turn, but he kept some distance there, and that's what, as we pointed out, that's what he's been doing all throughout this hour that we've been following him. It must make him just more comfortable.
Well, I guess. But as Stu said, he might have a way to, if he wanted to make another turn or something.
Exactly.
But again, it certainly makes him less of an aggressor if he keeps some room between himself and the vehicle in front of him.
Atlantic.
He's really gone through some busy areas of town here.
And traffic has, well,
He's been lucky for the most part.
He has, but you know, at this hour, it's almost 6 o'clock. We're approaching the 6 o'clock hour, and traffic, more people are certainly going to be on the road, especially in this particular area.
And he's avoided, as Stu just pointed out,
TOC.
avoided the freeways. So, I mean, he went from the valley.
Yeah, and
over
to
Quang
jump on the freeway at this hour, you know you're not going to go
Now he's coming back on the same street. Yeah.
too fast, especially on the 101. All right, well, we are going to hand off the rest of this broadcast for Paul Majors and me, Pat Harvey. We want to thank you for joining us for the 5 o'clock hour, but the 6 o'clock starts now.
Yeah, our coverage continues right now with Rick Garcia. Rick.
All right, thank you, Paul and Pat. This is CBS 2 News at 6 o'clock. We begin with breaking news. In fact, we're going to continue with coverage of one of the more unusual pursuits that we have covered, and we've covered lots of them. This is a tow truck that's being followed by police, a pursuit that we picked up at about 4:30 in the afternoon. Let's go up to Sky 2 and Stu Mundell for a recap of what's been going on. Stu?
Rick, well, this started in the Van Nuys area. Now, this was like off of Magnolia, somewhere in the Van Nuys area. We originally heard an officer calling for backup. Unclear why he needed the backup. Never said really why. When the backup did arrive, that's when we started hearing officers talking about chasing this white tow truck. Then there was some sort of altercation. We do know, or we heard them say at one time that they did make contact with the driver, or the driver made contact with them somehow, and so that was one of the reasons why they just didn't walk away. Once an officer's safety is jeopardized, that's when they really got to hold on to it. We in Sky 2 got over it when it was in the Studio City area, or the Sherman Oaks area, on Hazeltine and Ventura. It looked like it was over. We were like, oh, hey, perfect timing. We're here. It's over. And then the guy never got out of the truck and just made the turn, and it's been the same drawn out, defiant driving ever since that moment. He's been continuing on and just driving. We've gone through the valley. We've seen all the nice shortcuts through the valley at this time of the afternoon. He made his way into the Hollywood area via Ventura Boulevard, then Cahuenga, and then he was in the Hollywood area. He started taking the shortcuts into Hollywood. He was using the Fountain and the Franklin and all those smaller streets. Again, never stopping for police. Not doing anything too radical, but nevertheless never stopping for police. Again, officers have been in a tracking mode for quite some time. They haven't made any opportunity, or haven't taken any opportunity really to be aggressive, and they've made that choice. We've seen a lot of people in the Hollywood area coming up to the vehicle, taking pictures, using their cell phones, cheering this guy on. So obviously he's just enjoying his 15 minutes of fame here while the LAPD bide their time, but eventually, this is going to have to come to some kind of conclusion, be it he pull over, run out of gas, or some other means. But as long as nobody is injured, that's basically what we're hoping for. But again, we just keep watching this guy making his moves and not stopping. That's basically it. Driving safe, but not stopping. Rick?
All right, thank you, Stu. We're going to check in with Andy Nyman of the LAPD. And Andy, can you give us more of an update now from when you joined us earlier in the 5 o'clock news?
Well, Rick, not a whole lot has changed. We're still trying to make contact with that individual in the truck. Again, one thing I would caution the public, we've seen based on some of the coverage we're watching, is some of the public running up and getting in front of this truck. Highly discourage that from anybody doing that. It's very dangerous. Even though we don't believe this individual to be an immediate threat to the public safety, you never know what people are thinking. He knows now, definitely knows that the police are following him, that we want to talk to him. He is still refusing to stop, and we will continue to track him because based on his driving behavior so far, he has not presented an immediate threat in terms of his driving to the public or pedestrians. But again, any public that drives up next to him or out on the street, on foot, trying to get close to this guy, I would highly discourage that. You just never know what will set somebody off.
Lieutenant Andy, it's Pat Harvey again joining Rick Garcia right now. Just wondering if you know about the story that we've heard that the driver's father was initially working on this vehicle, and his son, the driver here, just Well, now he's just taking off again, Lieutenant, and I guess making another unlawful U-turn. If you're watching our footage, can you see this, sir?
Yeah, I'm seeing his maneuver there, yes. Not sure, again, what he's doing. It appears to me that he just has no sense of where he wants to go at this point. Again, it's unfortunate that he's just not pulling over so that we can resolve this. It's our hope that he doesn't do anything foolish and make this much worse than it is at this point. But, hopefully he'll just pull over.
You know, this is the fastest I've seen him drive, Lieutenant, since this has occurred, and this has been well over an hour. He's been driving rather cautiously, and then he seemed to just kind of pick up speed there as he made that unlawful turn.
Right. Yeah. Again, he had a little bit of open road there, no traffic. It's hard to judge speed watching it from this altitude that your camera is putting it. Again. The tracking mode is a mode that we continue until the suspect's driving behavior dictates otherwise and requires us to re-engage with lights and siren to, warn and alert the public that this person is presenting a danger in terms of their driving behavior. But again, this individual appears to be obeying the majority of the laws. He did make a couple of illegal U-turns from my perspective, but again, I'm not on the ground, and there may have been a legal way to make some of those turns that he made earlier. So.
Lieutenant, I want to pick up with where Pat was beginning with a question. As we'd gotten a report from the towing company who originally, Portola Towing, had sold a fleet of trucks. One of the trucks apparently had some issues and was sent to a mechanic for repairs. We were told that apparently the son of the owner of that, or the son of the mechanic, then jumped in the truck and went out on a call. It was at that point that police were called in. Was there an altercation of some sort with your officers and this suspect?
Well, that's our understanding at this point. As it was reported to us through Van Nuys, where this all started, the officers from Van Nuys responded to a traffic collision in the area of Woodman and Magnolia. This particular tow truck and driver were at the scene, not sure what reason they were at the scene, whether they were summoned to the scene or just happened upon it. And something transpired during that investigation where our officers became involved in some type of disagreement or altercation with this individual. And it was at that point that the suspect, returned to the tow truck and fled from the scene. And our officers followed him, attempted to stop him, and went in a short pursuit. And about 3 minutes after the pursuit was initiated, the Van Nuys supervisor who was controlling the pursuit elected to have all units drop out of the pursuit and engage into a tracking mode. And based on that, subsequent to that, the driver drove in a very safe manner, was obeying the laws, and so at this point we are where we are. We're continuing to follow him. As long as he continues to drive in a safe manner and doesn't endanger the public, we will follow him until he runs out of gas or he decides to pull over or we take other measures.
Now, Lieutenant Nyman, I noticed when he was on, I believe it was Franklin Boulevard or Los Feliz Boulevard, he came to a stop because traffic came to a stop. Officers behind him got out of their vehicles on the driver's side and the passenger side. I'm just wondering if there was some kind of contact that LAPD has made with this driver?
That would be difficult to say, but just looking at the coverage and watching it as you were watching it, the fact that you notice he stops quite a distance back from the vehicle in front of him, and during that that time where the officers exited their vehicles, probably because of the prolonged period that he was stopped there, the distance from the other vehicles, they didn't know whether he was actually coming to a stop. And so in preparation of taking the suspect into custody, the officers exited their vehicles just to make sure that they were safe and make sure the suspect didn't make any abrupt, aggressive behavior towards them. And then when he proceeded, they re-entered their vehicles and continued on.
If you're just joining us, we've been on this pursuit of a tow truck since about 4:30. On the phone with us is Lieutenant Andy Nyman of the LAPD. Lieutenant, are you guys, when it comes to the techniques that you can use, are you limited because of the size of this truck? It has a hook and a chain and a boom, which tow trucks have. I think it probably has the extra pair of wheels in the rear. So when it comes to, say, a pit maneuver or spike strips, are those even options?
Well, this vehicle obviously presents a few more challenges because of the size and the weight, the fact that it has tandem wheels on the back and the tow capability. So it is a heavier vehicle. We do have maneuvers that we can use on heavier vehicles. You mentioned spike strips. Spike strips are very effective on any rubber tire, so that might be an option. Again, we hope we don't have to resort to any of those other pursuit intervention techniques, and that we're able to just resolve this peacefully, have him pull over, and we can all go back to regular programming.
You know, Lieutenant, I remember several years ago, I believe some new laws were put into effect that just the fact of a person evading police, that's an automatic charge or a minimum charge of 6 months.
Yeah, there are certain enhancements for evading police that will be added on. Certainly, it will affect the ability of this individual to drive if they are convicted on those offenses. So, again, this individual at this point is not making his situation better by failing to stop. The fact that officers, are not in pursuit with their lights and siren does not negate the fact that he knows that police are behind him. He knows that police want to stop and talk to him, and he's just making things worse for himself at this point.
Yeah, we saw two pedestrians, Lieutenant, just moments ago walk in front of this vehicle, and that could have been a different situation.
Absolutely. Again, I would caution everybody that's watching the coverage or is aware of this particular following, stay away from the tow truck. This individual, we don't know what he's thinking, and if he's cornered or feels like he's put in a position where somebody's impeding his ability to keep moving forward, you're putting yourself in jeopardy. And we don't want anybody to do that.
We have our share of tourists in Hollywood, as everyone knows, and they've all have a camera in their hands, and this is certainly a part of the country known for its pursuits. Have you personally been involved in anything like this, Lieutenant, with a tow truck?
Not with a tow truck. I've been involved in some slow-speed pursuits back in my day, and they can be very frustrating. Because from a law enforcement perspective, our folks want to go out and assist the public and be available to respond to emergencies, and this individual is really delaying those officers and those resources from getting back to their regular duties. So it is frustrating, but again, our main concern is for the public's safety at this point, for the safety of our officers involved in this pursuit, and even for the suspect. And at this point, he's driving in a fairly safe manner. So tracking mode is certainly working for us in terms of his driving behavior, and we will continue to do so until he dictates that we do otherwise.
And something I think the public may you don't necessarily think of at the time, because their main concern is, of course, safety, and everyone wants to feel safe and be safe and want the LAPD to do whatever they can to make them feel safe. But this is also tying up a lot of resources, or costing the city resources, because you want to make sure, or try to make sure as best as you can, that nothing happens to the public when a driver is on the road like that.
Yeah, it certainly is tying up some resources, and the supervisors that are monitoring and controlling this pursuit will stay with the pursuit. If they're able to develop information where we can apprehend the suspect elsewhere, if we're able to identify positively who's in that truck, we may look at some other avenues that way. But again, until we're able to rule out and make those determinations, it's incumbent upon us to make contact with this individual and resolve what transpired back in Van Nuys earlier this afternoon.
Well, that brings me to my next question. Have you established communication with the suspect, A, and B? Have you managed to find out much about his background?
Yeah, to my knowledge, we still have not made any contact with him. And once we're able to make contact with him, we will be able to have a better idea of who we're dealing with, and at that point we will be able to run any kind of background or criminal checks and find out any kind of history or incidents involving this particular individual.
All right, Lieutenant, I guess we figured that, we thought more might be known about him, since we know that his father apparently has called and made some kind of told a story as to how this transpired, or that he wasn't supposed to be driving this vehicle anyway. But you're not necessarily concerned with that right now, obviously.
Yeah, our concern is to keep the public safe, make sure this guy doesn't drive like a fool out there. And I'll tell you what, let me go do some some phone calls, and I will see if I can get some more information to see if we've found out any more about this individual.
Oh, Lieutenant Andy Nyman, thanks so much for joining us again. We certainly would appreciate that. And obviously asked Lieutenant that, Rick, because of the information that we have so far about this person, that he is the son of a mechanic, and he took the truck that his father was working on, and they did have a confrontation, or he had a confrontation with a police officer. We were hoping that maybe they have shared information with LAPD that Lieutenant Nyman could share with us.
The pursuit that began about 4:30 this afternoon around Woodman and Magnolia. It made its way to, the pursuit began there, and it made its way into Hollywood, then Los Feliz, and back into Hollywood again. This is a truck that comes from the Portola Towing Company, but we're told that the owner sold off every bit of his fleet except this truck, which was in the shop for repairs.
And that company, Portola, is located in Lake Forest, which we do not know. This is something else that's outstanding in this particular case here. We don't know where this truck was taken from. We don't know where the garage was located, where the truck was being worked on.
What we have been told is that this suspect may be the son of the mechanic that was working on the tow truck, and he decided to go out on a call. That is where police confronted him, and I guess noticed that maybe he didn't know perhaps what he was doing, and that's when a confrontation, and then after that a pursuit began.
Or that maybe they didn't even know that the truck was taken at first, and could have come back to the garage and said, hey, what happened to the truck? And then discovered that the son had taken it. But at any rate, we have been paying close attention to this afternoon pursuit here. It started around 4:30. And it continues well past the 6 o'clock hour. And as you heard Lieutenant Andy Nyman say, they are just cautiously following this vehicle in tracking mode, trying not to bring a lot of attention. No sirens have been heard. However, with the coverage, people obviously know what's going on. If you just walk out, well, they just made a little swerve there, maybe to avoid. I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. He seemed to swerve a little bit.
And
Did you notice that he wobbled a bit?
Yeah, he did. He moved over a couple of lanes. You've been covering this since the 5 o'clock news, and for the most part, though, he's been driving, I guess at normal rates of speed and stopping at lights.
Normal rates, safely. He's used turn signals. We didn't see any erratic driving whatsoever. A couple of unsafe turns. When I say unsafe, just maybe an illegal U-turn, but certainly nothing out of the question per se, and nothing. But there you are. You see those police vehicles behind him. We were almost wondering at first if he even knew he was being involved in a chase. However, the police vehicles are now keeping a closer track.
Yeah, more of them
on this truck. Absolutely, they had pulled back earlier, but now they are certainly information close enough behind for him to know what's going on.
Let's go back up to Sky 2. Stu Mundell is there. Stu, what's it look like from up there?
Well, Rick, Pat, it's more of the same, but it's still very interesting to watch. This guy still just keeps on driving. That we listen to these people talk about no clue, or maybe he doesn't know what to do. This guy knows what to do. A little bit of acting erratic. Those kind of moves that you just saw right there, that kind of move is what's going to bring LAPD into this pursuit. And with force, that is what's going to bring them in there. Because like that officer said, I believe it was a captain we were just listening to earlier. That's the way it is. As long as the public is safe, they're going to give this guy a little bit of room, a little bit of a wide berth. But when he starts acting erratic, when he starts doing things that put the public safety at risk, that's when LAPD is going to make that move. They're going to try to bring this to an end very quickly. And again, this guy should just stop. It is very obvious. Everybody watching is probably saying the same thing. Why doesn't this guy just stop? Who knows? Who knows? If anybody, if the parent or that father is able to talk to this guy, you should be talking to him. And again, there you go. Again, in the shot, I don't know if you just saw it. It was up in the corner. There were actual people running to catch up to the vehicle. Again, public safety hazard. Those kind of actions. LAPD back into this. That's what is their hand.
You know what, Stu? We are going to have some information. There is a reason why we noticed him wobbling. From what we understand, they did try a spike strip maneuver. And we're going to try to re-rack some video
for the pursuit
to show you that. But it makes all the sense in the world, because he did wobble, and it looked like he was maybe trying to avoid something as opposed to just, you know, going to the left or the right in a jerking movement on purpose. So apparently they did try a spike strip, and I guess they made contact. Of course, we've seen that before where vehicles have continued to drive once they've made contact.
This truck has 6 wheels, 6 tires, so it can get away with a little bit more. But as we were told by the LAPD, spike strips are useful on a larger vehicle like this. I've seen in the past a pursuit of a semi where they used spike strips and it did the job. It did the job, yeah.
We're going to try to get Stu back on the line with this, because I'm wondering, Rick, we can't really tell if he's driving slower because of what happened or just because of traffic. But certainly there was some contact made, or there appears to have been some contact made.
Well, you know, Pat, I've just been, you know, I learned that from you just moments ago. We were getting fuel. If they did lay out a spike strip, we're definitely going to make our move. We're going to get a little bit closer, and we're going to, you know, we're going to really focus in on those tires. I'm also trying to listen up now on you know, what we can get, the information we can get from the LAPD to hear if they actually have done that, and if there has been some contact, like you said, with those spike strips, and those tires might be going flat. Again, this is we are just repositioning ourselves. We're joining the pursuit, so we can't just kind of storm up and grab the shot we want. Obviously, he's making a turn right now. He's northbound on Vermont. We're going to have a little bit of a side shot here, and we can grab a look and actually see if any of these tires are going flat. It appears that the fronts are solid. Maybe one of the rears there is going flat, and I do see what you're talking about, Pat. He is. He's not as straight as he was before. It seemed like he wobbled a little bit right there when he was accelerating. So perhaps maybe one or maybe both of the duals, that's what they call when they have those double tires on the back there, possibly one those duals are going flat. So we're definitely going to keep an eye on that. Now again, northbound on Vermont, looks like we're coming back up. That's the Fatburger right there. So this is going to be Hollywood Boulevard, and you can see one of the officers kind of paralleling there, actually passing him. You know, those numbers on the trunk, those designate where they're from. That's a traffic unit right there. So these, you can see them making an effort. They're kind of blocking traffic, not allowing cars to drive by there. Perhaps they're trying to give this guy a little bit of room, or maybe they're trying to make a little bit of room to make a move and bring this to an end. Again, we're going to try to swing around as best we can to see what we can see of those tires on the other side, because it would be very interesting to know. It'd be excellent to know right now if this guy has a flat tire. We're still northbound on Vermont, and we're coming back up into the Los Feliz area, and here we go. Again, it's between some trees here. We're going to move around, and we'll be able to get a better look at it. Again, you know, this guy's still going. You know, it makes you wonder how much fuel this guy had on board when this thing started to be able to drive so long. We've been following this, like Rick said earlier, since about 4:30. You know, it's 2 hours of traffic, street driving, and you know that thing probably doesn't get very good gas mileage. But anyway, it looks, you know, Pat,
yeah,
I have to say it doesn't look like he has any kind of, the tires are going flat at all.
Well,
yeah.
we did have folks looking at the video, Stu. We went back and had some, we looked at the video. We could not confirm that spike strips were used. We were told that it didn't appear that you could see any spike strips. That doesn't mean that they didn't use them. We just couldn't see it.
Or that he avoided them, or that he anticipated and knew what was coming. But he certainly did swerve.
We want to also point out both of those pictures are live pictures that you're looking at, both shots from our 2 choppers up there at the same time. We're giving you 2 different angles.
You know, it's interesting, Stu, Rick and I were talking with Lieutenant Nyman a few minutes ago, and he got off the air because he said he wanted to get some more information, and as soon as he did that, then we saw this truck maneuver here. That's why I was thinking that they laid a spike strip down, and that's what happened, because he said, you know, we're going to follow it as long as we can, but as we see people running up to the vehicle, taking pictures, getting in the way, or maybe impeding with traffic or with what's happening out here, then they would do whatever necessary to bring this to an end.
It becomes somewhat of a circus, and I think for the police department, they want to go about their regular business of helping people and not spending their time on somebody like this.
No, time and resources, as he said. You know, this ties up city services. As Stu, as you mentioned earlier, they had to switch channels on their own frequency just to handle the other phone calls that were coming into the city. So. You know, again, this was a lighter moment earlier, I think, when we discovered that he could possibly have taken this from his dad while his dad was working on it. But as the evening wears on and he's still not stopping and we still don't have any real indication as to where he's going, if he's returning the vehicle or not, well, it gets a little heavier.
Well, you know, yeah, you know, and as Lieutenant Nyman was saying earlier, and I have to apologize if I called him Captain earlier, that it was totally a mistake. But you know, he knows. He definitely knows. If all of us here, he knows what the LAPD's tactics are and how they're going to handle this. And of course, you know, as observers, we watch and we see the LAPD all the time doing what they need to do, and we get aware. We learn their tactics. We understand why they do the things they do. And you know, and that's kind of the relationship that the media has with the LAPD out here. And again, this guy, you know, their concern obviously is for public safety, and then for this, you know, obviously they're going to worry about this guy's safety. If he starts driving really crazy, you know, they don't want to see this guy kill himself. And he's making these unusual turns. It's almost, I mean, I would almost say taunting. You know, if he's not really getting to the point where he's getting crazy, but he is making these moves that are a little bit unusual, not of his character that we've seen so far. And again, you know, we are back where we started. I believe I kind of lost track where we were going. I believe we're on Los Feliz again, and it looks like we're heading back down towards the 5. So maybe there was a direction that he was trying to get to, and that the traffic just annoyed him, and he opted to take some time driving through Hollywood till the traffic cleared up. This is the spot right in this area. Here's where he made that crazy U-turn. That was the first aggressive or, you know, not of his character. That was the first move we've seen him do. Again, he's standing there. It's going to be traffic. I'm going to show you a little bit wider shot here. We're not going to lose the car, obviously, the tow truck. But you can see a lot of traffic. There's always a lot of traffic here in the Los Feliz area right before the 5. By the back entrance of the Griffith Park area. And again, you know, he's kind of stuck right there. You know, if officers are going to make an approach, if officers are going to do something, this might be the spot to do it. Obviously, there's a lot of, the public is around. There's going to be a lot of other people around. But these aren't the type of people that are going to be running up to the car trying to grab an autograph. These are your commuters. They want to go home. Probably frustrated with traffic as well as the tow truck driver. But it looks like the officer's still keeping the distance. And just going to keep following him down as we start leaving the Los Feliz area. I don't know what he's going to do, possibly get into Glendale, maybe take the 5. He's got a couple of choices coming up, major choices coming up here. You have to excuse us. Again, we are just rejoining the pursuit, so we have to kind of position ourselves and work our way back to the head of the pack here. But and we're doing that. And but these buildings are blocking us right now. But he's not making any good time. He isn't going to get away from us. And also not away from the LAPD, Pat.
And you know something, Stu, as you mentioned, it just doesn't appear that he's going to stop because he's had ample opportunity to do so. And if he's driving back from whence he came, going back to the Los Feliz area, then that's certainly a rather clear indication that he's really not intending to go back to the garage.
He seemed pretty calm, resigned, sort of, you know. But it's very strange.
It was an orderly end to what was an unusually orderly pursuit. The suspect led the LAPD on a 2-hour, mostly law-abiding chase.
He seems like he's switching sides. He's got on the passenger side, and he's just given up.
Finally on Brand and Mountain in Glendale, just like that, the chase comes to an anticlimactic end.